You are listening to the SitRep Podcast, your source for historic wargaming with a fresh perspective. We review the latest and greatest products in wargaming, discuss rules and what-if scenarios, and we cover the news and the latest trends. This is all brought to you by your SitRep command team from around the world. Join us for another riveting conversation here on the SitRep Podcast. Hello, everybody. This is Bill, and you're listening to the SitRep Podcast, and the command team is all together. We are joining you live from around the world. And with us today, we'll start going from east to west. Yeah, let's do that. East to west.
Yeah.
The farther easterner would be Gaz over in merry old England. Gaz, how you doing today?
I am very good. It's Sunday. I'm not in work, and that's a good thing.
Good. And then coming this way, I guess the next most eastern person would be Big Jim Oriskany, our historical editor down in sunny Florida. Jim, how are you today?
My mood is officially sleepy tank gunner. If you must wake me, be careful. Other than that, I'm fine.
All right. Sounds awesome. Moving along. So from there, I guess it's you and I.
Yeah, it's us.
Yeah. Hello, everybody. Marty's with me here in the studio.
Hey, how you doing?
All right. So, and then all the way over in the far west reaches of the North American continent is our Canadian representative, Chris. Chris?
How's it going, eh?
Is it maple syrup time?
No. That was yesterday.
That was yesterday.
Today's bacon.
He doesn't really talk like that, but he's playing it up, and we appreciate it. All right, guys. So we have a lot to talk about today. We have a major topic we're going to bring up. It's been the rage of wargaming this week on a lot of different channels, and we thought we would put in our pound worth, dollars worth, Canadian. All right, so it'd be $1.50 in Canadian, right?
Oh, I don't know. What's going these days?
So it'd be £1 or $1.35 in US dollars and about $2 in Canadian dollars. So we're going to give our opinion on this topic. And if you follow any of the gaming channels on YouTube or any podcasts or magazines or whatever, you'll be familiar with this topic. So we'll be talking about that. But first, we want to catch up with the team on news and projects that they've got working on. And now let's go west to east. So, Chris, why don't you start us off?
What's going on with me? Right now, I'm recording a lot more videos. I'm editing them right now. We've got more coming up for the Battlefield series making progress in our hobby. I am waiting for a book that is on its way. Battle Group Pacific is on its way to me right now.
Nice.
And so I'm working on Japanese for that.
Okay.
North Peg is, the British are almost completely done. I'm working on the Royal Air Force Continues. And then this month I'm starting on Warsaw Pact. That's what's going on for me right now. And I've got a lot of Vietnam videos coming up.
Very nice.
Well.
Those aircraft now, you're 3D printing them, right?
Yeah. All my aircraft are all 3D printed. So I have Lynx Tow, Tornado, Jaguar, Phantom, and Harriers, obviously. So those are all being painted right now.
That's awesome. So, it's amazing. Where are you finding the files? So in case people want to add some aircraft.
Thingiverse. At the end of painting the aircraft, I will be doing a video, and I'll put the links in the description of the video for everybody.
Awesome. Very cool. And then you've got some reviews you're going to be doing soon, right, on some product?
Yes, I just received on Friday 2 cigar battle mats for fields, and there's one of them's got roads on it. So it's one of the printed fleece fabric mats.
Uh-huh.
So I'll be doing a video on those, and those will be also added to upcoming videos that I do on Normandy coming up for next year.
Oh, very nice. Very nice. Anything else on your plate? Doesn't sound like you got too much going on.
That's about it right now.
Excellent.
That's enough.
Yeah, I think that's enough. All right. So moving eastward, it's you and I.
Yep.
And the ambassador's compound is just about finished. I just got to do a little cleanup and just a little bit of detail work, but it's essentially finished.
Yeah.
So it's ready to rock and roll. So, you know, unfortunately, like I announced earlier in a different show, we do have to move the Benghazi weekend ahead a weekend due to some travel commitments on my part. So we will be doing that a weekend later than originally planned. Unfortunately, some real life situations got in the way and I can't schedule around it. So we will be doing it then. But the table's ready to go. And we got Gaz's miniatures from England.
Yes.
So, you know, we don't even have that as an excuse going, oh, he didn't send them. So they're here. They're ready to go. So we just got to do a little cleanup. We've got to finish character cards. Now, I had a thought.
Uh-oh.
I know. It's dangerous when I have thoughts. Did you get the post today from Skirmish? Or last night, I should say?
2.0?
Or the new playtest?
Yeah,
the 1 point...
I have read half of it already.
I
Yeah?
downloaded it last night, but I saw it at like 11. So
guess what we're going to use for our rule set for the Benghazi table?
We talked about this
Yes.
a little bit a while ago, saying it would be kind of cool to be able to use those, but we weren't sure what the timing was going to be.
Well, they're out so we're going to officially playtest. So we will blame Colin and Co if the GRS operators get wiped out.
Yeah, you Colin. Sup.
So you guys over there at Skirmish, we're going to use that, and I'll reach out to them to let them know we're going to do that. Chris, have you talked to them recently by chance? I know you talked to them once in a while.
Last time I talked to Colin was probably a few months ago, actually.
Okay.
Because he's been pretty busy. They're trying to get those miniatures done in 2S for Ultra Combat.
Yeah.
And them having to switch sculptures kind of screwed things up a little bit for them.
Yeah.
And I know with COVID, they were in shutdown.
Yeah.
So being in New Zealand, they were totally shut down.
So I'll reach out to them myself as well. And we'll let them know that is our intention is to use that rule set.
Yeah, thanks for the homework. Now I got to read another rule set.
So, looking forward to that. So that's pretty much what we got on the table is to finish that up. And then, like I said, that'll roll us right into our season end break. We're going to take a break after the Benghazi. So by the end of, we'll have one more podcast in September-ish, sort of, maybe. Well, by the end of September, the break will begin and we'll be back in November. This gives everybody a chance to recharge. And, Jim's got some good programming coming out and Gaz's work is ramped up. So unfortunately, real life gets in the way. We don't do this full time. So we need to sometimes just step back and take a breather. And you guys follow us pretty well. And, we do a season and then we take a break, about a month break, and then we come right back in and hit it hard. So that's the plan.
Quick note, YouTube and Discord will not be taking a break.
Oh, Jim's going to be rocking and rolling. Are you going to still be doing some gaming?
Whatever the community wants, but we won't be taking a break.
Okay.
If you take a break and you come back, you don't have a channel anymore. So we'll be keeping something up.
Okay.
At least on some of the channels.
Okay, good. Well, there'll be content. It's just the podcast itself does a reset. As we work, I'm going to be working some new graphics. So there'll be work on behind the scenes. We just take those couple of weeks off to reset, and Jim's going to be, active as always. And that's another discussion point I wanted to talk to everybody about. I know Jim is extremely active for his online gaming on the weekends. And, he tries to reserve Sundays for sit rep gaming, historical gaming. But I want to open up, and this is totally Jim's decision, but my suggestion is if somebody wants to do some kind of different gaming on a Sunday, do some different gaming on it. I mean, you know, if it's sci-fi or fantasy or whatever, gaming is gaming. Let's promote gaming, you know, even though we're historical gaming. You know, if you got people, Jim, that are anxious to play a game and it's not historical related, you know, I would say play it. You know, we like to see a little bit of mix up. So, you know, it's all about getting people playing a game. So that leads me right into you, Jim. What you got going on? What's your projects?
We got a couple things going on. Recently, we had some videos go up for, we expanded Valor and Victory system by Barry Doyle into Afghanistan. We had a pretty successful playtest with Dylan over in Australia on that one. Mm-hmm. That's another historian wargamer on YouTube. He has his own channel that's really good. Check it out, please. We've done multiple playtests now of the 13 days to 13 hours Benghazi transit game. We've had some mixed results. Gaz can probably talk about those a little bit later if he wants. Or if he's still in PTSD over it, he doesn't have to.
You know, if you want to discuss it now, I was watching the third part this morning, and Gaz, what happened with all the ambivalent guys turning to Feb 17?
I think in the, well, we tested a rule in the first run out of a vehicle potentially running over local population. And the alternate universe of the second playtest must have heard about that, and they all turned Feb 17 on me. So that and the interpreter was I don't know, he's got some sort of charm skill. So every set of bad guys that got near him, he turned to neutral, or worse, turned to friendly, which, that guy's getting shot at the earliest opportunity every time now. That interpreter is target number one. I don't care about the GRS anymore. I want the guy in the cap in blue body armor. He is priority dead.
That's kind of how it went. But in all seriousness, if the second playtest, we had a lot of really lucky rolls on my part. I won't, people love to complain about their dice. Oh, I've lost every die roll today. What's going on with my dice? Yeah, I have days like that. See Rasmus versus Jim in Letters of Mark. That was a bad one. But at the same time, the inverse is also true a lot of the times. I just had a really good day with the dice. Mm-hmm. And a tactic came about where, so the way it works is there's a friendly militia, and the game starts off with no friendly militia. So each group of ambivalent militia is controlled for that turn by a random player. You roll odds or evens, you see who controls that given hex of ambivalent militia, and they move around under that player's control for that particular game. So whenever I would get a group of militia, I would move them towards me. And it's risky, but when the dice are on your side, it works. Yeah. And then you just move your interpreter near them, and then once he's adjacent or in the same hex or an adjacent hex, you make the roll. And again, I had hot dice that day, and by the time we got to the compound, I think we had like 13 Feb 17 militia active, Feb 17 militia in combat with a technical, with a douche, with RPGs, with light machine guns. Now, see, Feb 17 was an army, man. On turn 6, I had all 6 operators. I had my interpreter. I had like at least a squad, and I mean that in the literal sense, like 10 to 12 guys with vehicle support. And the enemy force was exactly one hostile militia. Gaz's army was one figure. It kind of went off the rails there. There is a bit of a snowball effect, which is intentional. I just don't think that last playtest results are going to be typical. When you draw a whole bunch of militia to your interpreter, it's kind of a risky tactic. It pays off. We've seen what happens when it pays off. Mm-hmm. I would not be surprised if when we try it again, we're going to see it when it doesn't pay off. Because those ambivalent militia can turn hostile as well. And if they turn hostile and you've now surrounded yourself with militia, get ready. Yeah. It's going to be a really bad day. But yeah, we had a wild time. We had Oz with a wound, and that was it. We had one wounded GRS figure there. Now, the last thing I wanted to bring up, because we were talking about casualties and historical results and whatever. Yeah. And you guys chime in or weigh in if this sounds crazy. As a game designer, I'm finding it statistically very, very rare that we meet the historical results. The historical results are the GRS team gets there in 7 minutes with no significant casualties. The GRS team made it there intact, with nobody killed and nobody wounded. That's going to be very rare. Even this runaway game where poor Gaz, I mean, the Sportsman of the Year award goes to Gaz for that game. Even in a runaway game like that, we still wound up with one GRS character seriously wounded.
Mm-hmm.
So the idea that and that's going to be the best. We're probably never going to see that again. When we had the previous playtest, we had the interpreter stabbed to death. We had one GRS person who was severely wounded. We had another one bled out in the street. So the idea that it's going to turn out like the movie is not accurate. It's not going to happen.
Right.
However, I think that's okay because, and again, weigh in or correct me if I'm wrong. If I remember correctly, the idea of the game is what would have happened if the GRS left immediately instead of that 35-minute wait.
Yes.
Yep.
Okay, so 35 minutes before when they left, the whole situation at the compound, at the consulate, and in the streets was a lot more active.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, so yeah, it's going to be bloodier.
Yep.
If they had left on time, they would have met a lot more resistance, and they probably would have taken more casualties.
Yes.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, you nailed it right on the head. I mean, it is, if we leave now in the heat of the hornet's nest, can we save the ambassador and how's it going to look, right? Because if you read the story or you listen to the interviews, and there's a great one with the guys from Benghazi on YouTube channel. I don't remember what the name of the channel was, but they talk about it. And, and then there's the movie. They come in at the ebbing of the attack. The attack is pretty much waning at this time. If they come in right when it was in the heat of the battle, it would have been a different story. So, yeah.
I just want to set expectations to where we're probably not going to match the movie results as far as the transit game goes. Obviously, as far as the actual compound battle goes, we definitely don't want the historical results. That's the whole point of the project, is we want to see if GRS leaving on time could have made a serious difference.
Right.
I want to set expectations for the team and for the community that don't expect all 6 characters to be alive and kicking when we get there. It might happen. It happened last time. Again, Oz was wounded, but he was still combat. I'm not sure how the wound systems works in your actual miniature game, but on my table, he wound up with a wound that left him, combat effective, but just at a reduced capacity.
Yeah.
I think that's going to be about as good as a result we get. I don't foresee.
Yeah, I think it's going to come down to how we play, or how I play the militia. Because obviously I have a battlefield overview as a controlling player that wouldn't have existed between the guys on the ground in reality.
Yes.
So I wonder if I play it a bit more, keep the groups, don't randomly move them, but also don't focus on vehicles that I can't see. Sort of initiate by, okay, we talked about, I think Jim put in a great mechanism for sound increasing the threat on the street level that we roll for at the beginning of each turn. What I might do is have them generally sort of mill around until they hear the first engagement and then start to shift towards the sound. So that focuses them on, they're coming from that direction. Therefore, I start moving stuff south if they're coming from the south or the east. So I think I'll actually try and play, not specifically to focus, kill, stack my statistics for my units, but I'll actually try and play them as a group that might have been using mobile phones, that would going off the sounds that are going off around them. There's going to be gunshots, there's shouting. Actually try and play them as a mob, rather than somebody that's got upset.
Yeah. You know what? That almost sounds like the mechanic in Walking Dead game. That the zombies get attracted to the sound, and I was kind of thinking about it. I mean, is there a fog of war element that could be put in? But also it's a 2-part process, because while you have the people, in the streets, the militias in the streets, you still had that group that was attacking the compound. So, it's almost like you'd have 2 different activities going on at the same time.
That's modeled in the setup conditions. As far as whether or not the militia player, the hostile militia player, has enough control over his units, I would never tell anyone how to play their army, but I would, outside of just, I'm going to immediately build an impenetrable ring of forces around the actual combat because I know that's where he's going to go. As far as attacking the vehicles go, everybody in that militia army has a mobile phone, and they literally live there. They know that city backwards and forwards. So as soon as somebody on that Nokia or whatever chirps on the Nokia and says, hey, they just passed the 7-Eleven, they just passed the Chuck E. Cheese, they just passed, the valve on the oil plate, they all know exactly where that is. Mm-hmm. In fact, in some ways, they might have better situational awareness than the GRS does. Oh, yeah, most definitely. Yeah. Now, conversely, I think the GRS had a drone up, but I don't know if they had access to that. That's always kind of a question as a designer, as far as how much view of God you're going to have in your game or whatever. I don't really have a problem with it. We are changing the way that hostile militia and ambivalent militia set up on the table when they actually appear. I think before the players had a little too much freedom. And so, like, friendly militia and ambivalent militia was popping up, like they were literally coming up out of the storm drains, like in the middle of the street, like popping up in the middle. And it's like, well, no. With a tush on the back of the vehicle. It's like, no, maybe not. So we are still making some slight tweaks, but my original point. Having that fog of war and having that mob mentality, I think a little of that's already modeled in the game. In that, like as Gaz found out to his displeasure, that he can lose control of his army. So that the GRS is pulling up past like three militia guys. The three militia guys blast, they empty their magazines at the GRS. The GRS have just come out of their vehicles, but they got the cover and conceal bonus. So pretty much the bulletproof SUVs are taking all the fire. And then rather than fire back, the interpreter makes a check, and all of those hostiles are now ambivalent. Mm-hmm. So, and because the way the fire for the turn sequence is set up, he never got that, he never got to shoot those units again. That's kind of intentional. I mean, I kind of warned everybody about this from the start. The militia player is not really going to control his army in a classic sense because, he's running a mob. Right. So, yeah, I mean, I tried to build the game where the players can kind of do whatever they want. And if they wanted to get as gamey as they wanted to, they would still deliver a historical approximate result. But again, the only thing I was somewhat worried about is if the militia player just says, oh, I know that the GRS player has to go to one of these three hexes, the front gate, back gate, or personnel gate. I'm just going to build a moat of militia around this castle and dare you to kind of break through. Like literally the militia is going to form squares around the militia and, come and have a go if you think you're hard enough. Right. Not only is that not realistic, it's going to make for a boring game. That's the only thing I'm a little concerned about. But as far as bum rushing the GRS, especially once they get out of the vehicle, this was another thing that came out in the playtest. The firepower differential is absurd, especially if the GRS player is careful with this movement. Again, it's not really fair because I'm the game designer. That's why I wanted to make sure I was not the GRS player during the actual game that counts, because I literally wrote the game system. But yeah, with careful using of those rules, I mean, those guys pretty much were, I don't want to say invincible, but because again, one of them was wounded. But that one exchange of fire, I think it was on turn 4, Gaz, if I'm not remembering that right. Yeah, I mean, it was like 12-1 or 15-1 as far as the hit ratio and the kill ratio goes, which again is intentional. Tier 1 operators versus, random schmuck with an AK firing it with one hand. It's... You're going to see that kind of thing. Yeah. The play tests are going pretty well. Everyone, we get a little bit closer to the final state that we want to get to. I won't say perfection, but as close to what we kind of want as close to what we're aiming for as I think we're likely to get with this kind of game. Mm-hmm. Right. And I'm actually pretty happy with the way things are going on that project so far.
Yeah, I think. We've play tested it a couple of times, Jim and I, and we've almost tried, I think, everything that could test the game, haven't we, Jim? Really, I think the only thing we haven't tried is the moat, but I wouldn't do that as a militia player anyway. I've always tried to sort of spread out into the avenues of approach rather than just stay at the compound. I do have some assets there to make up the mob mentality and what was going on at the compound to keep the threat up.
Yeah, I was going to say, you literally don't have a choice in that matter. Your setup conditions in the transit game require you to have, I think, or require the militia player to have at least 6 figures at that front gate.
Yeah,
and again, that's to simulate that or approximate that protest and attack that was going on at the front gate at the time.
Yeah, I think I've always moved them off the front gate, but I've only ever really moved them around the compound to keep the idea of the threat of the mob.
Mm-hmm.
And then they end up being my last line of, I say defense, but last game they were not defending. They ended up turning to the threat of the enemy. So yeah, I might be moving them a bit further away on the next one, just so that you're not getting friendly forces when the interpreter turns up. So yeah,
that last big exchange of gunfire across the street was, okay, I'm going towards the back gate. With the guys on foot. I didn't try to drive to the front gate. I'm going to try to get there on foot. Try to get there on foot. And then I put in like that full squad or understrength platoon almost of Feb 17 guys between me and the enemy. Tried to use them as meat shields a little bit. And guys had a choice. Do I shoot at the GRS as they try to cross that last street? Or do I shoot at the Feb 17 guys that are literally standing out in the middle of that street at point blank range? He chose to shoot at the GRS guys, which is like kind of the objective of the game. But if he had chosen to shoot at those Feb 17 guys, that would have been a massacre. Because I literally just piled them in the street, like right in front of them.
I think we talked it out, didn't we? And said if we'd have been playing the actual game, I would have definitely shot the Feb 17, knowing it would have given me a clearer board for the return transit.
It's true.
But because we weren't playing the other one, I shot the GRS.
Yeah. And again, it's kind of the objective. I mean, the GRS is the primary target. But as far as like the very, very one-sided results of that game, if it had been more of an equal or symmetrical battle, whereas like, oh, the GRS is running into the compound, but the Feb 17 and the hostile Libyan militia are just going to go, World War II in the streets, Stalingrad style, we would have seen a much more even. My good God, that one fire phase. We all had single D6s because I did not have cover and conceal bonus, and you would have +1 to all your rolls because you were at point blank range. Yeah. You had 2 LMGs, 1 surviving SMG. So it's like total figures. That would have been probably 9 dead Feb. So you would have wiped up at Feb 17. Yeah, as big as they were, you would have wiped them out in one fire phase.
I had a couple of RPGs, I think, so at that point as well. For the Dush that was down by the South Gate. But, we've play tested it a couple of times now. I think Jim and I are at a good point with it. I think we're close to being the final product, if not at a final product with those last changes. What do you think?
Yeah, again, with those little bit of deployment and initial disposition rules for new and hostile militia, for new ambivalent militia, I think we're pretty much there. Yeah. The interpreter check might go down to a +1.